How to play against London system as black. Once on my channel I showed you the ideas with g6, but today I want to show you how to outsmart your opponent in classical line of London system with d5, e6, knight f6 and so on. Prepare for this. That would be interesting, that would be helpful for you, and you will gain a very good position against the London. My name is Pavel Martinov and welcome you to my YouTube channel, and let's start. So for us, basically, doesn't matter how white's setting up here, because we will still draft to the position of classics London like this: knight c6, knight d2, e6, c3. For whatever move order, we can practice this as black, and in this position, we are coming with bishop d6, the main approach. For white, the best move is to play bishop g3, and I will explain you why. For example, if white wants to trade on d6, that's basically no problems for us at all. Bishop goes to b5, castle, castle, bishop goes to d7. And what to do here is white, basically. It's not so easy to find out the plan. The main, according to the database, is to play a4, a6, bishop goes to e2, and I really like the move rook fd8, which is pretty new. I didn't find any game on it in Master's database. The idea is pretty tactical for us, that after queen b3, we can go b6, and normally the pawn is not under attack on the b6. So white can't play in this position queen takes b6, because we can just like take, and play rook d8. And this endgame after queen c5, takes, rook goes to b2, is very normal for us. We don't have any trouble here, to be honest. So the idea generally after this b6 issue is that I want to push my pawn to a5, because we don't have the black squared bishops. It would be good to push the pawns on the black squares. My rook will come to c8, the bishop can hide himself on e8. That's why I played rook fd8, just to find the good spot for the bishop on e8, and when the position will unlock in the future, we will find out the better place for this bishop. Now he would be okay on e8. Why I want to play rook fd8? Because it looks logical in this position to play e5. But here we can fall into London trap. The knight goes to c4. That is the idea of white. And after this, the e5 is hanging many times. So we need to take, but after takes, it's again a double attack. And even if we takes on d1, he can take here. And unfortunately, the knight can't move because of rook takes d7. And white gets a strong advantage here. So don't fall for the trap. That's why rook fd8 is my recommendation here. So let's return back to the main position after the bishop goes to d6. The number of your opponents will go bishop g3. The white strategy here is very easy. They really want us to take and take in this position, because the h line would be opened and white's using the thing that they didn't castle yet. And for example, our castle would be very, very tough now, because this could draft to attack. And if we will go h6, in some moments white can spend g4, g5, and that would be very dangerous for us. King could be castled long or even find his way on f1. So that's the main idea of white after the bishop goes to g3. So let's go back to the position. And we don't take, but we are brave enough to make a castle. What can be more logical in chess than just to do the castle? And here white has also the options. Going forward, if bishop goes to b7, b5, I'm sorry, white's idea is to take on c6 and expose the square. We will come up with a knight to e7. This method of knight e7 I will unlock for you a bit later in the bishop d3 line, and you will understand the conception. So after the castle, bishop d3 is the main move. b6. As our bishop is blocked with a pawn chain, we better place him on b7, and he would be developed and useful in the future. And here white has the option. Basically, that's the kind of a real main position. We need to go with the main line, queen e2. We need to cover up their idea of castle. And e4 and knight e5. Knight e5 could happen in your games because the attacking lovers doing this very often, I believe. So let's start with the e4, because it looks like the very concrete approach. White wants to play e5. And if we will take on e4 here, white can count an advantage because after the exchanges, this would be hanging. So the best for us is to go bishop e7. And this line is very, very complicated, to be honest. So white should go e5 if they want to fight for advantage, and we need to go no h5. So our idea is to have the possibility to take this bishop and try to stress the attack. So what white can do here? The fourth line is knight g5. But let me firstly cover up the a3 idea. We can come up with the a5 in this position, and that's really playable and interesting approach. Like for example, after queen e2, black can even play rook e7, trying to create the rook into the game and supporting the flank of king. Or for example, could be played a4, castle short or something, and bishop goes to d7. Very complicated position. I think that's here you need to practice this slide, and you will see what basically happens after all. Rook a7 could be also after queen e2 an approach. The example line could be like this, like castle, c4, bishop c2, b5, and now we start an attack on the on this side. So it was one game of Alex Grushuk. He played h4, a tricky move, because in some case he prepares knight g5, trying to attack, but after takes b4, this position should be very okay for black, because we really launched our counterplay on the king side. Position is interesting and rich for the options, so I wish you a nice gameplay here. So let's go back to the initial. So that's how we covered the line with the e5, knight h5, and a3. And I want to speak about knight g5. This line is very, very forced. Here, prepare to learn a forced variation. Bishop takes on g5, takes g6. We need to not be checkmated. Queen e2 takes on d4, and white's going with h4. They're trying to attack. Bishop e7, h5, takes, d4. What is the main strategical rule? If your opponent attack you on this side, counter-attack him in the center. So takes, knight e4, king g7 to stabilize everything, to prevent knight f6, and to have rook h8 as the idea. Rich position again. Let me show you the example line, like bishop f4, rook h8 to protect against bishop h6, castle long, bishop b7. That's something really crazy on the board. Takes, knight d6, takes, queen h4. Playable and interesting, but that's still the move 23. I don't think your games would draft to there, but better to know, better to learn anyway. That was regarding to the move 11, knight g5. I want to go back to the move 9, where white choose e4. Basically, nowadays they're choosing e4 pretty rarely. And what could be else? Knight e5. That's maybe the less dangerous move for black. After bishop b7, f4, we know this idea of Pillsbury ring, right? It looks also like a stone wall in Dutch. And you can consider this as the dangerous, but that's not. You need to know the key positional conception. Knight goes to e7. That's important. Our knight could perform or g6 or f5 to stop the attack of white. The key piece of the attack is the bishop and his influence to the king side. By doing knight to f5, I want to stop this bishop and counterattack white. So, for example, after queen f3, I'm going with the knight f5. For sure, it's not good for white to take, because after takes, this pawn is the weakness, we have e4 square, and remember, without the white squared bishop, the king side attack is not dangerous anymore. So that's literally better position for black now. What white can do? If bishop goes to f2 trying to save it, now another important positional conception that you need to remember. White threatening g4, g5. So we need to have this nice spot for this knight. Bishop goes to e7. My idea that after g4 I have knight d6. And now I'm playing around this square, but that is supported by all my pieces. So after g5, knight e4, again I block this bishop, and as we know already, it's no longer dangerous attack without this bishop influence. So the example line could be like this. Takes, queen g4, takes, rook c8. Now black is better because I'm coming with the rook to c2. So remember this idea of bishop goes to e7 and yep, 96, 94. Again, you don't need to learn the ton of theory, but you need to understand lots of conceptions here. So if white's trying to raise up the stocks by doing the castle long here, unfortunately they would be attacked first after b5. Another idea. What is this? I don't care literally about these pawns. I can sacrifice them both. I really want to have a counter attack to this king. For example, after bishop takes b5, I want to play b4 by the way to unlock the lines. After bishop takes b5, I'm coming up with queen a5 here. Like, and I'm attacking double, right? On a4, I'm ready to play a6. So that's like a way better position for white. Like on knight b3, for black, I'm sorry. For knight b3, I have queen c7, and it is what it is. Like bishop e2, c4, knight d2, rook goes b8, and this king would be checkmated first. And again, our pieces handles everything on the king side. So we are completely okay here. Remember positional conceptions on knight e5 line, and then you would never scary of knight e5. Let's go back from this and speak about the castle. Basically, after the castle, we can take in any occasion on g3 because the rook is no longer on h1, so we are not afraid of this. We can start with bishop b7, queen e2. White's ideas are very simple. They want to take at some moment, play e4, try to gain something in the center. Here we can, for example, do take, and just like play queen c7 in this position. That would be completely okay for black. Calm position, pretty symmetrical, playable, and black is okay. Also, we can do some sharp like c4, bishop c2, but that's not so well here because on b5, we are not so fast with our attack. White will catch us in the center. That's why with the c4, our game should be very accurate. c4 should come in the right moment, not here because white are countering us in the center and they're getting better. So that's why I really want here for the queen c7, and I like this position. We also look forward to play e5 as black, right? And like after e4 here as white takes, we have options here. Even the position c takes, for example, takes on d4, knight goes to e7 is okay, surprisingly for us. Yes, the king is not so bad here. The pawn on d4 is the real weakness, and that would be a good position for black. So again, very rich position after queen c7, need to be tested by the practice. And let's go now to the main move, queen goes to e2. So the white's idea is to wait with the castle, save more options, and after, for example, bishop b7, the main move for white is still rook d1. Rook d1 is very useful because in case of doing e4, rook on d1 just in time, and again we don't take on g3 because h takes g3 and the rook is unlocked. But I strongly believe, as you know the conceptions already, you can find the move here for black. It's for sure knight goes to e7. Another example of replacing the knight to the f5 to block the feints. So what can be here? If d takes, for example, we can take on c5, e4, and play knight g6. They took our f5, but we will take our g6. And like e5, knight h5 is completely okay because I'm threatening to play with the knight to f4. That could be the line, for example. Returning back, if castle here in this position, we can play knight f5, right? And again, we are very okay. On bishop takes d6, we goes to d6 with the knight and exposing the e4 later on. If bishop takes to f5, again, e takes f5. Yes, the pawns are doubled, but only we could be better here in this position, even after d takes, b takes. So our pawn structure is very hard to attack for white. We have better center situation. Our pawns are more active than those. We have outpost positions. Yeah, and we are pretty flexible. And don't forget that we can use this side as well to our counter. So we have better space. That's a good position for black anyway. Returning back after the knight e7, according to the database, the main for white is to take on d6. Take on d6 and play castle. And here, Again, we want to speculate around our 95, 96, 95, 96, 94, but to do this in the right path. Queen goes to c7. Important move because the queen on c7 is definitely better than on d6. We don't have any x-ray and we still can follow this strategy. It's kind of a main conception in this London. Example line could be like this, 95. Here, a5 is also useful move strategically. My point that I'm looking for two options. Push the a pawn. We know how computer loves these ideas, the modern computer. And also, in some moment, if I will play c4, bishop c2, b5, I will have an extra tempo for doing b4 because my pawn is already on a5. That's the other idea of it. So the example line could be like this, f4, 95, g4, 96, our favorite trick, g5, 94. Again, the position is very sharp and interesting, but we are pretty secure here. Again, we block the bishop on d3. That's the main aim of this knight e4 trick. For sure, it should be tested on practice. I hope you will do this. And don't forget to type the comments with your practice in these lines. I showed you general lines, general theory, and main positional concepts. And I wish you a good luck with this nice equipment in your chess games against London. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you soon.